Alright everyone, we're back at it again with some more Umineko madness. Well, no madness as of yet, but what I will say about this game is that it is pretty much intriguing. It's on the same level of intrigue as Fata Morgana. But the thing is, it's actually very slow pace. But the difference is I actually appreciate that because it gives us more time to build the tension and get to know more of the characters. So I'm actually in it for the whole run, so I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on and what happens next. So if anything else, guys, we're going to continue on further. Thank you all for watching. Now let's keep on trucking. Alright everyone, and we are back. My dad called it a bed of nails. Apparently, it used to be a very serious family meeting where one would commonly be showered with harsh and angry voices and even get slapped in the face despite being well past the age for it. I think you shouldn't be slapped at all regardless of any age, but I mean, that's just me. However, that was all a thing of the past. By now, everyone had achieved success in their own independent business ventures, and it was on the road to becoming a normal yearly get-together. Even so, being asked by grandfather about the current state of play was an extremely stress-inducing event. And while to us grandchildren it was nothing more than a simple meeting to our parents, it was still a real stomachache. The absence of the man responsible for all this, whatever the reason behind it, must surely have made today's lunch even more delicious. Wow. I mean, I can kind of understand it. The grandfather, or Kinjo, is so off his rocker. The phrase, when the cat is away, the mice will play, comes to mind. Well then, let me introduce Jessica's father, whose face I haven't seen for 6 years. The man sitting to my dad's left is his older brother and the father of Jessica, Uncle. This name sure is easy to read. Kraus. After so many weird names, it warps your sense of what's normal and you start to think, hey, what's wrong with Kraus? Sounds pretty cool actually. Just like with Aunt Natsuhi, I don't have many memories of speaking with Uncle Kraus. He had never been one to talk to children, and I felt like he was always talking with the adults, just like Aunt Natsuhi. From the way my dad talked about him, it seems that he used to be a pretty spiteful and unreasonable person. If what dad said is true, he used to be a very domineering as the oldest sibling, and was hated by Auntie Ava, Auntie Rosa, and the rest of the family. Odd considering they're all having fun chatting together. Well, I guess even if their relationship was bad when they were children, sometimes when people grow up and go their separate ways, their relationship changes. Or they are pretty much holding back. That's probably what this is. After all, they all have children of about the same age. Since they share similar family environments, they probably all profit by exchanging opinions. Maybe because of that, the parents' circle has been deep in conversation for a while now about the exams Jessica and I are going to be taking. Jessica, in order to escape the discussion of exams with the old bastard sitting on her lap, was purposefully facing to the right, firing off topic after topic so as to not give him an opening. Moving on, let's look at the end of the opposite from Uncle Kraus and the others. In the very last seat at the table, an old gentleman with a sturdy physique sat facing Kirie-san. This was my first time meeting him. I'd only just been introduced to him, but it seems that he's grandfather's personal doctor, a man called Nanjo. Apparently, he used his own huge clinic on the nearby Nijima Island, but he turned it over to his son and then began living life of leisure in his old age. He's known grandfather since the very beginning when the mansion was first constructed on this island, and they have a history of going back several decades. I thought he might be grandfather's companion in his suspicious hobbies, but surprisingly it seems that he's grandfather's chess partner. I see, that kind of hobby does seem very like our grandfather with his love of Western style. You could probably also call him the only person able to enter Rokenjima who is neither a family member nor a servant. From listening in on his conversation with the womenfolk seated near him, he gave the impression of a calm old gentleman. Considering he's managed to put up with our short-tempered grandfather for so long, I'm sure his big heart is nothing to laugh at. Still, even if he is his doctor, having someone from outside the Ushiromiya family attending the family conference is a little odd, from the fact I imagine that grandfather's condition has grown much worse. And it may even be one of the major topics of discussion at the family conference. George Aneki was just saying it too. For the past year, grandfather has been continually pronounced as having very little time left to live. It's awful to talk about, but grandfather is an extremely rich man. At the time of his death, his wealth will suddenly be released along with our parents' stomach acid, surely leading to some serious ulcers. With this kind of thing, the greater the number of ways it must be split, the more trouble will be caused splitting it. This kind of talk would probably also be included in the family conference. Oh well, it's not like it has anything to do with us children. Finally, even though he's absent, let me introduce our grandfather. The person who should be sitting in the seat of honor is Ushinomiya Kinjo. It really sucks. He gave everyone else in the family these weird names, but he himself uses one which is conservative as all hell. If only his name were written with those same characters of gold and vault, but he let us call him Goldsmith or something. That'd be totally awesome. As you can probably gather from all the talk about him, he's a frightening person with an extremely short temper. Because I'm just his grandkid and haven't met him since I was in elementary school 6 years ago, I don't remember ever having been beaten by him, but it seems that our parents were raised with an iron fist. That earlier conversation between my dad and Uncle Kraus about who should go try to convince grandfather to come out seems oddly funny if you take this into account. In order to tell grandfather's story, you have to take yourself all the way back to before the Showa era, which was 1926 all the way to 1989, to recount the tale of the Ushinomiya family. Until the Meiji and Taisho eras, 1868 to 1912, and the respective 1912 to 1926, the Ushinomiya family was great and prosperous. They owned several spinning mills and were very wealthy people who merely had to fall about laughing while the money rolled in. Incidentally, grandfather, as a member of a branch family, originally had nothing to do with the main family. Distantly separated from the head's inheritance, he apparently had very little involvement with the head house. However, during the Great Kanto earthquake in 1923, the mansion owned by the Ushinomiya main family in Odawara was flattened. The spinning mills in Tokyo were all burned down in a huge fire, and the Ushinomiya family lost most of its wealth and family members in an instant. It then became a matter of who would become the heir to the main family, and as it turned out, none were left except for Kinjo, who was as far removed from the main family line as they come. Kinjo himself later said that it was such good luck. It was as though fate itself had been turned upside down. With that, grandfather's ordinary life did a 180. He was entrusted with reviving the wealth that the dying Ushinomiya family had almost completely lost. Of course, just because you suddenly dump a task on someone doesn't mean they can do squat to accomplish it. I doubt the people around him were expecting much. But this is where grandfather began to display his extraordinary talent and good luck. Grandfather used all of the family funds and everything from the hair on his head to his toenails as collateral to borrow a massive amount of money. Created a gigantic supply of funds and immediately started a business. It was like tumbling down a hill on a bike without any brakes, and then jumping onto a neighboring bike and then another one. Just like some crazy street performance. Probably anyone would have thought that grandfather had no business ability. But with an unbelievable amount of good luck and miracles, with coincidences piling up and every chance taken advantage of, before anyone knew it, he had forged powerful connections with the Allied forces. At that time, MacArthur and the GHQ were in charge of Japan. Grandfather, in a twinkle of the eye, began succeeding in business under the protection of the occupying forces, quickly becoming very rich. At this point, it was no longer luck but information that won the day. He must have made some seriously thick connections with the occupying forces. Grandfather knew about the emergency demands that would be made for the Korean War before they happened. No, more than that, he must have foreseen these special procurements and started penetrating those markets from the very beginning. History textbooks say that all of Japan made a large profit off the emergency demands for the Korean War, but that wasn't the case in reality. Only a very limited number of the super rich played the money game and made an easy profit. Most of the citizens remained poor. In other words, grandfather was an extremely lucky member of this group of winners. This all happened during the year 1950, Showa 25, I think. And since the year of the Great Kanto earthquake was 1923, Taisho 12, that means grandfather was able to revive the near-dead Ushinomiya family to a level even higher than it had been before, in the span of only 20 to 30 years. With that, you'd think that he would revive the main family in Odawara. But for some reason, he went and did something as crazy as buying an entire small island in the Izu archipelago. Buying an entire island is not something that you can ordinarily do today. However, grandfather was clever. He contacted the GHQ and applied for the establishment of a marine resource base. He acquired this island as a business property and then reneged on it and claimed it as his own plot of land. You would think that after all the spiteful things that Kinjo has said about Battler, if he knew how well-informed Battler was, I think he would actually take a step back and think about his grandson for a minute and be like, this kid may have potential, but, you know, it is what it is, right? After the war, there were prevention measures against food shortages, and furthermore, he had the sponsorship of the GHQ, which meant that nobody could oppose him. It seems that Tokyo provided the land for next to no money at the time. Tokyo later made repeated complaints for the land to be returned, but not much could be done due to the involvement of the GHQ, even though they'd been pushed into it. Note that he'd bribed everyone there was to bribe. In the end, the city gave up in frustration. Grandfather, with considerable skill and blessed with good luck, managed to weather the stormy seas of that period, obtaining a vast fortune and his own island. Of course, it wasn't all luck. He was skilled with English, and this was cultivated by his Western obsession. It was by using that as a weapon that he was able to make inroads into the GHQ. A mansion was immediately built on the island. That would be this mansion. Grandfather, who had always loved the West, made this once uninhabited island, Rokenjima, a canvas upon which he could realize his dreams to his heart's content. The Western mansion that he had always imagined, overflowing with emotion, the beautiful garden where various roses had been planted, and a private beach where nobody other than himself would ever be permitted to leave a footprint. To have this much would be every man's dream. After that, making good use of his huge fortune, he became a large stockholder in the extremely stable iron and steel industry, and was able to live an easy and comfortable life just using the dividends. Well, he's just that incredible. This kind of person normally gets portrayed after the fact as having the ability to foresee and predict the future or something. But grandfather denies all that, repeatedly saying that he was simply blessed with extraordinary luck. Anyway, even a lord like that, with all of his dreams made real, can't help but grow increasingly odd when locked up alone on an island. Everyone knows he's been obsessed with the West for a very long time, but none of our parents really knows when his bizarre black magic hobby began. Perhaps his love of black magic began way back when he became fascinated with the West. Or possibly his miraculous stretch of good luck, which allowed him to revive the family, caused him to feel a mysterious power in himself. At some point, grandfather began to make the research of black magic his life's work, filling his study up with suspicious books, chemicals, and magical items as he became increasingly bizarre. Those being the few remaining years of a person successful in life, those around him warmly watched over him, feeling the time was his to spend as he pleased. Or so I hear, but no way in hell that's true. They probably were just driven away, thinking that's disturbing, I don't want to get involved. Well, that war-torn period was a time for big gambles, with both opportunities and risks. I'd like to see grandfather do so well if he'd been born in this time period. He would have had no opportunities and would probably have advanced like a chess piece from a mandatory education to college at a leisurely pace, never becoming more than an average company employee. If that had happened, he'd probably be sitting here with the rest of us, regaling us with the tales of his shitty boss. No, not here in the dining hall of a mansion. We might have been around a table at some bar. If that were the case, I'm sure that this would have been a more comfortable family conference. Alright, that's enough talk about the old geezer who won't pop off. More importantly, let's talk about the incredible lunch.
前菜の刺身のサラダで俺はすでに確信してたね。幸田さんは大したシェフだぜ。しかも、魚は近海で取れたやつだろ。スーパーの刺身とはわけが違ったぜ。おいおいよせよバトラー。育ちがバレちまうだろうが。
Everyone let out a big laugh. Damn it, you say that even though you love those cheap pubs.
僕も仕事の都合で珍しいところで食事をすることもあるけど、それらと比べてもこれはかなりのものだよ。合田さんは多分その道じゃ少しは知られた人だったんじゃないかな。
よくは知らねえんだけどよ。老舗ホテルで、のれん分けだか、派閥の分裂だか、ややこしいことがあってよ。そのトラブルで辞めざるを得なくなっちまったんだってさ。それでその時、偶然、お袋が使用人の求人を出してたわけなんだよ。
As Goda cleared away the empty plates, he began to recount his own eventful past, never losing his smile.
世の中というのは難しいものです。しかし、そのおかげでこうして今日、後宮家で再び料理人として腕を振るう機会を賜ることができました。大勢の方の笑顔も嬉しいですが、お仕えすると決めた限られた方々にだけ喜んでいただくために繊細なお仕事ができるのもとても楽しいことでございます。これもすべて機会をくださった奥様のおかげです。
Goda-san respectfully bowed his head towards Aunt Natsuhi.
応募のあった中で、ゴーダが一番腕が良かったからです。客観的判断に基づくもので、市場はありませんので、感謝には及びません。
Oh man, why does Aunt Natsuhi always have to speak so frankly? If only she spoke more gently, she might give off a different impression. Shannon-chan and Kumasawa-san entered from the hallway with a serving cart.
失礼いたします。
それでは、本日のデザートに移らせていただきます。
Goda-san and the others laid out the beautifully adorned dessert. I guess it's true when they say you have another stomach for desserts. I thought that being fed all the delicious food had totally filled me up. But as soon as I laid eyes on the dessert, my stomach started yelling, "More!" I don't know much about desserts, but this looked really good. A white pudding-like substance was garnished with 2 shades of red sauce, and elegant rose petals adorned the dish. When you dine on such magnificent food as this, first it is distributed in front of everybody, and then the chef takes a moment to extol the virtues of his creation. Until he has finished, as a rule, you don't touch the food. However, Maria, who had no experience with these ceremonious rules, got excited by this beautiful and delicious-looking dessert and jumped into the fray as soon as it was placed before her. Auntie Rosa scolded her, calling it bad manners, but George responded by saying, Now, it's alright.
こっちの酸っぱい。こっちの酸っぱい。バトラ、こっちのは外れ。ふぅ。
Maria exclaimed as she sampled the 2-colored sauces.
なんだと？当たりと外れがあるのかよ。よし、俺も味見をしてやるぜ。
Apparently, the 2 sauces were one sweet and one sour. Despite it being bad manners, I also stuck my little finger in and licked it. Oh, one of them was sour enough to make you pucker up. If it were yellow, I'd have suspected lemon, but I couldn't guess what kind of sourness would be red. I decided to ask Shannon, who was putting away the serving cart behind us.
シャノンちゃん、この酸っぱいのは何のソースだい？
Shannon-chan hesitated to speak. Maybe she was just setting the table and doesn't really know. She's hesitating a bit much for that, though. Did I ask something wrong? Or did they use something that we'd be better off not knowing about? While Aunt Natsuhi acted as though she had a headache, Kumasawa-san, who was sitting the other side of the table, began to laugh with a ho 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 ho.
何の材料を使っていると思いますか？驚きますよ。
I'm worried.
全然わかんねえぜ。というか、熊沢のばあさんがそういう笑い方すると不気味でならねえぜ。で、何なんだよ、正体は。
内緒ですよ。お耳を拝借。
Kumasawa-san leaned across from the other side of the table. She'd asked to borrow my ears, so I leaned forward too. Their interest caught. Jessica, George, Aniki, and of course Maria also put their ears closer.
この酸っぱいのはですね、実はお魚のサバの絞り汁ですよ。
サバ？
Don't be ridiculous, we all thought, horrified. Only Maria accepted it, nodding with an uh-huh.
ほー、サバは酸っぱいよ。絞ったらこうなる。
I wonder how long this whole little happy get-together is gonna last, cause knowing this game, not for long. When Maria started clamoring that mackerel were sour, the adults were unable to contain their laughter.
違うわよ。酸っぱいのはしめ鯖でしょ。
Auntie Rosa said to Maria in a small voice while turning red. Ah, now I remember it perfectly. Kumasawa-san was always this kind of character, wasn't she? I think I remember her tricking me about all kinds of things when I was young as well. Amongst all of them, the most painful must have been that one. That flimsy black stuff you get in Chinese food. Kikurage mushrooms. She told me it was a penguin meat, and I went all around school like a smartass telling everyone, didn't I?
熊沢のばあちゃん、相変わらずだな。マリアが信じちゃうだろ？
冗談ですよ。今からゴーダさんがソースの正体を教えてくれますからね。
Goda-san looked a little put out from having his masterpiece laughed at in such a strange way. But after clearing his throat once, he introduced the dessert to us.
それでは、デザートのご説明をさせていただきます。本日は、ご来賓の皆様が大層お気に入りでございましたバラの庭園にちなみまして、パンナコッタをローズガーデン風に仕上げてみました。散らしてございますバラの花びらは、当家の庭園より先ほど採取してきたものでございます。ソースは、ストロベリーとローズヒップの2色の赤をご用意しました。ストロベリーの甘味とローズヒップの酸味を交互にお楽しみになってください。なお花びらは観賞用となっておりますので、避けてからお召し上がりくださいませ。それではどうぞ、お楽しみください。
Man, I almost want to applaud before I even eaten it. It's like when you take medicine, you know how it seems to work better when you've read the instructions. Thanks to Goda-san elaborating on the details of this dessert, I feel like he's knocked up another notch. Seriously, should you call him meticulous or just talented? The dessert was probably planned from the beginning, but he took a cue from our stopping in front of a rose garden earlier today, and displayed an incredibly timely awareness of the season by just adding a few rose petals from that garden. This combination of sweet and sour was also exquisite. If it was just sweet, you just get used to it and become bored halfway through. But by bringing in the sour sauce at that point, you get a really vivid taste. And then once you return to the sweet sauce, all of the sourness in your mouth is replaced with an enjoyable sweetness again. I'm sure everyone else felt the same way. Every time Goda-san passed by one of the seeds, someone praised the taste in his creation.
いかがですか、奥様。
相変わらず見事です。お客様をおもてなしするに値します。
恐れ入ります。奥様、ご存知ですか？ローズヒップには頭痛に効く効果もあるそうですよ。奥様に特にお気に入りいただけるかと思い、特別にご用意させていただきました。
そう。ありがとう。
ほら言ったでしょ、夏日姉さん。ローズヒップは頭痛に効くって。
みたいね。聞くといいんだけど。
ゴーダさん、あんたには惚れるで。なあ、後であんたの待遇を聞かせてや。無理ならあんたの星に年収、指立ててくれるだけでもええんやで。あんたの腕が、この島だけで独占されとるのは人類の食文化に対する冒涜や。その腕、わしの会社で振るって、お客の皆さんを喜ばせてみる気はないかのう。
秀吉さん、うちのゴーダを引き抜かれるのですか？これは困った。ゴーダの待遇をもっと良くしないと引き抜かれてしまいそうだ。
そうした方がいいわね。じゃないと引き抜かれて、3食が熊沢さんのサバ料理にされちゃうわよ。
ほほほほほ。これは手厳しゅうございます。すっかり根に持たれてしまいまして。
Everyone let out a huge laugh. According to Jessica, Kumasawa-san's macro jokes were a type of running gag, and our parents had long since gotten used to it. Kumasawa-san often claimed that macro contained precious nutrients that could do things such as prevent aging and make people smarter. It seemed that while it couldn't stop the outward signs of aging, it helped prevent aging on the inside. Since she was still healthy enough to tell these kinds of jokes at her age, that benefit must be the real thing.
それでは失礼いたします。夕食にはふるって、たくさんのサバ料理をお召し上がりいただきますので。と。
期待してるよ。今晩はしめサバでキュッとしゃれ込みたいぜ。
それは素敵ね。ついでに日本酒の美味しいのも出てこないかしら。
ええ、ございますよ。六軒島名物のサバ焼酎なるものがございまして。
Kumasawa-san, together with Shannon-chan, bowed and pushed the serving cart away. Amusingly, Goda-san, who looked just as though his stock had been stolen from him, explained very seriously that tonight's dinner would actually be cow steak.
熊沢さん、さっきはありがとうございました。
As she pushed the serving cart, Shannon bowed her head very deeply.
なんも、お礼を言われることなんてありません。
Kumasawa played dumb, but it was no accident that she had thrown Shannon a lifeline. Back when Battler had asked for the details of the dessert, Shannon had unfortunately hesitated. There may have been several ways to dodge the question, but all of them should have been delivered deftly. Shannon, who hesitated when hard-pressed for a response, was always suffering because of this small weakness. If only Shannon, like Goda, had a little of the craftiness needed to skillfully shake off a mistake, her days would be a little more comfortable. This weakness was especially unfortunate considering how flawlessly she could have handled her work. Of course, there were those who well understood Shannon's meek nature and her inability to remember to gloss over her mistakes, which is why Kumasawa came to her aid without hesitation.
さっき源氏さんが午後のシフトに変更があるとおっしゃってましたよ。確か、シャノンさんは夕方までお休みがもらえたと思いました。羨ましい。
すみません。シフト表を確認していませんでした。
そうそう。オーブンでこれからちょっとサバを焼こうと思ってるんですよ。できたらお休みの前にちょっと手伝ってくれると嬉しいですね。
はい。
I don't know why, but I read the previous dialogue as before I break your neck. Okay.
喜んでお手伝いさせていただきます。
To Shannon, Kumasawa was like a mother among the servants. I don't know why I was expecting another shatter of glass again. The dining hall needed to be cleaned up, so we were chased out. Instead, tea would be served in the parlor. It seemed that they would be preparing the black tea that Auntie Rosa had brought for Aunt Natsuhi. Maria insisted that she also wanted to drink the black tea, but was rejected by the old bastard, who told her and the rest of us kids to go play outside.
バトラ君、みんなで表に散歩に行かないかい？
バラでも見に行ったらええ。でも、天気には十分注意するんやで。空はまだ明るいが、天気予報はふるふると繰り返しちょる。
マリアは海がいい、海がいい。
あら素敵じゃない？砂浜で遊ぶなんて普段はなかなかできないものね。
そっか。よし。じゃあみんなで浜辺でも行こうぜ。
行こう。
マリア、服を濡らさないようにするのよ。靴もよ。
濡らさない。
素直で可愛い。バトラ君、マリアちゃんの面倒、ちゃんと見てあげてね。
おうよ、任せろ。
ほう。お前もキリエに頼まれると素直で可愛いじゃねえか。たまには俺の言うことも素直に聞いてみろよ。
へっ、まっぴらごめんだぜ。行こうぜ、みんな。ほらほら。
The children flew out of the parlor. They were replaced by Genji, who pushed the serving cart in and prepared the black tea. The parlor was filled with a sublime aroma, which entertained everyone while they waited to appease their thirst.
ルドルフのところは家族仲がいいじゃないか。良いことだ。
よせよ。兄貴のところには負けるぜ。
そうよ。ジェシカちゃん、 本当に可愛らしく育ったじゃない。これも夏日姉さんの教育の賜物ね。
どうも。
Natsuhi answered coldly. With that, the conversation halted and the parlor became silent. Possibly because he couldn't stand it anymore, Hideyoshi broke the silence while performing an exaggerated gesture.
しかし、成長は早いもんやで。いつまでも子供だと思っとったが、図体はみるみるでかくなり、いつの間にか大人の仲間入りや。バトラ君なんか見違えたで。
Alright everyone, this seems like a good stopping point for now. I'm gonna end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. When we come back, we're gonna end up listening in on what the family has to say while the kids are out to play. So if anything else, thank you again. Until the next one.